Sure, here's a compelling and atmospheric version of the story based on the title. My grandmother's house smells like death. And it's not just her. My grandmother's house smells like death. And it's not just her. When I was a kid, my grandmother's house was always too quiet. The air hung heavy, like it was trying not to disturb something ancient and waiting. Every time I visited, a smell hit me the moment I stepped inside, something between mildew, dust, and the faint sweetness of rot. My mom said it was just the old furniture. I wasn't so sure. Grandma herself had always been frail and pale, her skin nearly translucent, as if even sunlight found her too fragile to touch. She moved slowly, like every step pulled her closer to the earth. But she was kind, her smile warm and her eyes sharp. That was, until the year she started talking to things I couldn't see. She'd sit in her armchair in the parlor, whispering to corners where no one stood. Sometimes she'd laugh, low and breathy, and nod like she was being told a secret. When I asked her who she was talking to, she'd smile and say, "Oh, just old friends. They come around more now." The house got colder. I mean bone-deep cold, even in the middle of summer. I stopped going into certain rooms, the upstairs hallway especially. It always felt like something was watching me from the end of it, something that knew I didn't belong there. One night, I stayed over, against my better judgment. I woke up around 3 a.m. to the sound of the floorboards creaking outside my room. I thought maybe Grandma needed help, so I opened the door and saw her standing perfectly still at the end of the hallway, facing the wall. She didn't move. I whispered her name. She didn't respond. I watched for a full minute before she slowly turned and shuffled back to her room like nothing had happened. I didn't sleep the rest of the night. A month later, she passed, peacefully. They said, I didn't go to the funeral. I told my mom I couldn't handle it. But really, I was afraid of what might follow me back. Last week, we went back to clean out the house. It was just as I remembered, cold, silent, and reeking of that same familiar decay. But this time, the smell wasn't coming from Grandma. We found her diary in the nightstand. The last few entries were frantic, scrawled in shaky handwriting. She wrote about people in the walls, about shadows that whispered her name, about something old, buried in the house long before she ever lived there, something that had claimed her soul in advance. I don't know what that means, exactly, but sometimes, I still dream about that hallway, and when I wake up, I swear I smell her house. And I swear I'm not alone. Want me to expand it into a full short story or series? Here's the continuation of the story. Part 2, The Locked Door. We weren't supposed to go into the basement. That was one of Grandma's only real rules when I was a kid. Don't go down there, she'd say, her voice suddenly sharp and brittle. It's not safe. Old stairs, bad wiring. But now that she was gone, and we were cleaning out the house, the basement was the last place left. The door was still locked. Rust had eaten at the hinges, and the old brass handle was cold to the touch, colder than anything else in the house. My mom didn't want to bother with it, leave it for the realtors, she said, but I couldn't let it go. Something about it tugged at me. I had to know. I found the key in a cracked teacup on her vanity, wrapped in a yellowing piece of cloth that smelled like ash. It didn't even feel like metal, more like bone, smooth and warm. When I slid it into the lock, I swear I heard something shift behind the door, like breathing. The stairs groaned under my feet as I descended, flashlight flickering in my hand. The smell was stronger here, thick and sour, like something had been buried beneath the foundation. Dust curled in the beam of light like smoke. Then I saw it. The far wall had been partially torn down. Not recently, the bricks were scattered, moss-covered, some fused together like they'd melted, and behind them was a narrow tunnel, carved into the dirt. It pulsed with cold. I should have turned back. I knew that. But I stepped inside. The air grew wet, the smell unbearable. My flashlight dimmed, and then I heard it, a whisper, close and low, like someone was crouched just behind my ear. She promised us. I ran, tripped, hit my shoulder on the brick wall, scrambled up the stairs with something skittering fast behind me, something I never saw. But I could feel it brushing against the back of my legs like fingers. I slammed the door shut and locked it, key still in the lock, my hands shaking. Mom didn't ask what happened. She looked at me, pale and tired, and said quietly, I think it's time we left. We drove away that night. But I dream of that tunnel now. Almost every night, I hear voices whispering secrets in the dark. And I swear, sometimes I wake up with dirt under my nails. And the smell? It's here now. Want to keep going? I can take this darker, more psychological, or even paranormal. Absolutely, let's go deeper. Part 3, Dirt Beneath My Nails. It started small. A scratch on my wrist that wouldn't heal. A whisper in the silence between songs. That smell, that awful, wet earth scent, lingering on my clothes no matter how many times I washed them. I told myself it was stress, grief, guilt. But then the dirt started showing up. On my pillow, in my shoes, embedded deep under my fingernails each morning. Even though I hadn't left the house, I started locking my bedroom door at night. Not because I thought someone would break in, but because I wasn't sure I wouldn't walk out. The dreams got worse. I wasn't just back in the basement anymore, I was digging. My hands tore through soil like it was calling to me. I could feel something below. Not a coffin, not a body, something older. And always, right before I woke up, I'd hear a voice from the tunnel. She opened the door. Now you are the key. I tried to tell my mom. She looked at me like I'd grown a second head. You need sleep, she said. Maybe a therapist. I agreed. Lied. Really, I wasn't about to tell a stranger that something dead might have followed me home. Or worse, something that had never died at all. Then the phone rang. It was the realtor. She sounded shaken. Said the house had been broken into. But nothing was taken. The police found the basement door wide open. No signs of forced entry. Just footprints in the dust, heading into the tunnel. But here's the thing. They weren't footprints. Not really. She said they looked more like claw marks. That night, I woke up in the backyard, standing barefoot in the wet grass. My feet were covered in mud. My hands too. My fingernails were cracked and bleeding, like I'd been clawing at the earth. I don't know how much longer I can fight this. The voice is louder now. It doesn't just whisper anymore. It asks. It demands. And last night, when I looked in the mirror, I saw her standing behind me. My grandmother, eyes hollow, mouth open, as if she were still screaming. But no sound came out. Just that smell. Should we go for a final part, or stretch it into something longer? I can take it full horror novella if you're down. Alright, let's dig into the next part, and things are about to get much worse. Part 4, The Hollow Ones. I tried staying awake. I filled my apartment with noisy music, TV, even an old ticking clock I found at a thrift store. Anything to drown out the whispers. But sound doesn't stop what's already inside you. It just gives it rhythm. 3 nights ago, I blacked out again. When I came to, I was on my bathroom floor, mud smeared across the tile, my hair damp with soil, my mouth full of grit. I spat it out, and something small hit the sink with a clink. A tooth. Not mine. I should have run, should have burned the house, or confessed to someone, anyone, but it's too late for that now, because I know what it wants, what they want. They were never ghosts. They were never people. They are hollow, not dead, not alive, just emptied. Like my grandmother, like they were inside her, wearing her skin, smiling through her mouth while she fed them, protected them, promised them. I think I've been chosen to keep the promise going. I started reading her diary again. The last entry was different than before. I swear it wasn't their last time. The soil drinks memory. It remembers who gave. It remembers who took. And now it remembers her blood. Below it was a name scratched over and over again until the paper tore. Mine. The door to my basement creaked open last night, and I don't have a basement. Not until now. But there it was. Rough wooden stairs leading down into the dark. I should have screamed. I should have run. But I just stood there. And I smiled. Because I know now. I finally understand why my grandmother never left that house. Why her house smelled like death. It wasn't death. It was hunger. And now it's starving. Want to finish this off with a final part, a climax and ending? Or keep building the mythos? Let's bring it home. Part 5, Feed the Soil. The door won't close. I've tried nailing it shut, bricking it over, even calling a contractor. But the moment I look away, blink, breathe, think of it, the basement is there again. Like it's always been part of this place, just waiting to be remembered. I hear them now in the walls, scraping, gnawing. Not like rats, it's more deliberate, more patient. They're waiting for me to stop resisting, to let go, to finally become what my grandmother was. A vessel. The last entry, all right, this one is for whoever finds it. Maybe you're here to clean out my apartment. Maybe you're a relative. Maybe you're just curious. I'm sorry, truly, I didn't want this. But the soil remembers. And it does not forgive. They're louder tonight. Close, closer than ever. I can smell it, that rot sweet musk of decay and earth and birth. Because that's what it is, in the end. Not death. Rebirth. I'm going down there tonight. I don't think I have a choice anymore. Maybe I never did. The tunnel waits. The walls breathe. And something is shifting beneath the surface, something older than time and hungrier than hell. I'll feed it. Like she did. Like we all will. Eventually. Epilogue. When the landlord finally entered the apartment, it was empty. No furniture, no personal belongings, just a hole in the floor where the bathroom used to be, and a smell that clung to his clothes for weeks. He swears he heard someone whisper his name when he looked inside. But the cops didn't find a body. Just dirt. And underneath it, buried deep, a cracked diary full of names. All of them crossed out. Except the last one. Yours. Want a prequel next? Maybe what those things really are? Or a totally new story in a similar style? Alright, let's peel back the veil. Prequel time. Before the house, the thing beneath. Long before my grandmother ever lived there. The land was different, wilder, wrong. People used to say the soil was too rich, too soft, like something was always rotting just beneath the surface. In 1894, a man named Elias Thorne built the house. He was a quiet man, a former gravekeeper who came west after a fire claimed his chapel. The locals avoided him, not for anything he did, but for how the dogs reacted to him. They'd howl when he walked by, teeth bared, eyes wide. He built the basement first, dug it himself, deeper than any normal cellar should go. Some said it wasn't a basement at all, more like a shaft, a pit, and late at night, they claimed they heard him down there, whispering, singing, feeding something. That fall, children started disappearing, 3 in total, all within 5 miles of Thorne's land. No bodies were ever found, just shoes, always one pair, neatly placed on a doorstep or in a field. Eventually, they came for Elias. The sheriff and 2 men from the town went to confront him. They never made it back. By morning, the house was empty. No Elias, no sheriff, just silence and a new smell in the air. The town sealed the basement with iron and stone, buried it, cursed it, left it to rot. The land sat untouched for decades, until 1963. When my grandmother bought it. She got it cheap. Of course, bad luck property, they said, old damage, but she didn't care. She said it called to her. And after a while, she started locking the basement door. Started whispering to things no one else could see. Started smelling like the soil. There's more. The hollow ones have been here longer than any of us know. Beneath towns, beneath homes, waiting, feeding. You want to dive deeper into their origins next? Or explore a different victim's story from the past? You got it. Let's go deeper, into the origin of the hollow ones. Origin, the hollow ones. No one remembers the first one. Not truly. But stories survive. Scraps, really, hidden in burned church records, carved into the walls of abandoned asylums, passed down in the whispered prayers of those who know how to listen. They were never human. They wear our faces, speak in the voices of the people we've lost. They don't kill, not exactly. They empty. A long time ago, before cities, before names, people feared the spaces between things, between breaths, between heartbeats, between the waking world and sleep. They believed those in-between moments weren't empty at all. They were full. That's where the hollow ones were born. In silence, in stillness, in absence. They need flesh to stay here. Not forever, just long enough to feed, to plant a memory in the soil. That's what the house was for. Not a home, a container, a gate. Elias Thorne wasn't the first. He was just the first who helped them willingly, because they made him a promise. He would never die. And he didn't. Not really. He's still there, or what's left of him. You can hear him sometimes if you stand in the tunnel long enough. Not screaming. Laughing. The hollow ones don't haunt places. They become them. That house. The basement. The smell. It wasn't just death. It was a warning. But no one listened. And now? They're spreading. Want to go global with this next? I can show how it's happening in other places, how this thing has always been bigger than one house. Or, we could dive into Elias Thorne's personal journal, the one no one was supposed to find. Alright, let's pull back even further into the darkness. Here's how it spread, global. From one house to many. The hollow ones, the spread. It's not just the house in the middle of nowhere. It never was. What started with Elias Thorne, and later, my grandmother's house, was a ritual, a forgotten tradition, passed through time like a curse. The hollow ones, if that's what we even want to call them, aren't bound to one place, one individual, or even one country. They are nomads, travelers of the unseen, waiting for the right soil, the right seed, to take root. When Elias Thorne summoned them in the late 1800s, he didn't just open a door in the basement, he offered them something more, a map, a pathway of sorts, a map written not in ink, but in memory, in blood, and wherever the land was ripe, wherever something needed to be forgotten, the hollow ones could cross over. They first made their way to the asylums, the places people were locked away and never spoken of again. From the moment they stepped into those whitewashed halls, they were never the same. They hollowed out the patients, made them into vessels, and when the nurses or doctors came to check on them, they were gone, replaced by something that looked like them, but wasn't. It wasn't until the Great Fires of 1913 that the hollow ones got their first taste of mass destruction. They didn't need the people inside the asylums anymore. They needed the land. The fires burned everything to the ground, and the ones who survived the flames? They were just walking husks, their eyes vacant, their smiles frozen. That's when the hollow ones began to spread. Europe, the industrial cities, Paris, 1921. A small apartment building near Montmartre was the next stop. A poor family moved in, a woman and her 3 children. The neighbors said it wasn't the children who died in the house. It was the woman. She gave herself to them willingly. Her children? They lived for years, hollowed out, silent. But when the house was emptied, when the voices finally went quiet, the building stood abandoned. The smell lingered for decades. And now, the hollow ones are closer than ever. They're in the cities now. They slip through cracks, down alleyways, in the forgotten corners of the world. They're not just in basements, they're in the spaces between moments, between shadows. They don't need you to die, just forget. They don't need flesh, they need memories. That's why it's so important to never forget, never let it go. If you stop remembering, if you stop thinking, that's when they come for you. That's when they come for all of us. Do you want to see a specific story of someone trying to fight back against them? Or a deeper dive into the ritual Elias Thorne used? Let me know. Let's dive into the ritual Elias Thorne used, how it began and how it set everything in motion. The ritual of Elias Thorne. It was never meant to be a simple summoning. When Elias Thorne first discovered the old texts, fragments of forgotten rituals buried in the dusty corners of abandoned libraries and graveyards, he thought they were just stories. Folklore. But then he started noticing the patterns, the strange coincidences, the stillness in the air around certain places. Places like the old burial grounds, the crypts, and especially the graves where families had been forgotten, left behind. Those were the first signs. And that's when he found the ritual, written in a language older than anything he'd ever encountered. A set of instructions, not for summoning spirits, but for calling something far more ancient, the hollow ones. The ritual didn't require candles or incantations. It didn't even require a full moon. It required forgetting. The first step was simple. Elias had to let go of his own past, to erase the memories of his family, his life, the fire that had torn apart his chapel, the loss, the regret. The second step was darker. He had to dig beneath the earth, deeper than any grave, and uncover a space untouched by light. The hollow ones could only be summoned in a place where memory had been forgotten, a place where the land was soft, ripe for planting. The third step was where he made his pact. Elias knew the power wasn't in him, it was in the soil. in the forgotten bones of those who had been buried there long before him. He had to offer them something, not just flesh, but remembrance, by digging that hole deeper and deeper, until he felt the ground give way to something soft and pulsing. He was agreeing to the deal. The Hollow Ones wanted more than his soul. They wanted the land he'd chosen, the land where memories were buried. And they wanted to feed. As soon as he made that choice, as soon as his hands touched the earth beneath the foundation of his house, he felt it. The hollowing, the emptiness creeping inside of him, filling him with something not his own. The hunger had begun. But the ritual didn't stop there. No, the Hollow Ones had made their demands clear. To keep them from taking over completely, Elias had to feed them. Not with blood, not with bodies. With memories. The final part of the ritual, Elias Thorne would have to lure others, to bring people into his house, into the land where they could forget. He would erase them, bit by bit. He would hollow them out, turn them into vessels, so that the Hollow Ones could move on to new places, new houses, new bodies. And when the time came, when the land had been consumed, Elias himself would return to the Hollow Ones, fully, completely. He would become nothing but an echo in the walls. The ritual had worked, at least, for a time. But what Elias didn't realize was that the Hollow Ones were never satisfied. They don't just need the land, they need more. More flesh, more memories, and every time they fed, they became stronger. The ritual spread, slowly at first. It took decades. First the basement, then the house. The people who lived there began to disappear, slowly, hollowed out. Their minds stripped clean. The land grew stronger, more fertile. And the Hollow Ones? They fed, they grew. Now, with everything they've consumed, the Hollow Ones aren't just bound to one place. The ritual has spread, like spores carried on the wind. The land remembers them, and they remember the land. Soon, all of us will be part of the land. And once we are, we'll never leave. Want to see what happens when someone finally tries to stop the ritual? Or explore another part of the Hollow One's global influence? Let me know. Alright, let's take this to a place where someone finally tries to break the cycle, someone who's aware of the Hollow Ones. The Last Stand, breaking the ritual. It wasn't supposed to be a choice. But as I sat in front of the cracked mirror, staring into the hollow eyes of my grandmother's reflection, I realized the truth. I was going to have to stop it. I had to. I wasn't the first to try. Of course, there were others before me, victims, maybe even willing participants at one point, who had tried to break the ritual, tried to stop the Hollow Ones from feeding. But what they didn't know was this: you don't break the ritual, you only postpone it. The moment you try to sever the connection, the Hollow Ones get hungry. And when they get hungry, they do things, bad things, things that don't make sense at first. I learned that the hard way. The first attempt to stop them came after I realized the extent of their influence. I started digging through records, speaking to those who still remembered the house's original owners. And every piece of information led me back to the same thing: the ritual. The ritual of forgetting, of erasing the past until the land itself craves the memory of it. I knew the only way to truly destroy the Hollow Ones was to sever their link to the land, to destroy the very foundation of their ritual. That meant the house, and everything beneath it. The problem was the house was no longer just a house. The moment my grandmother opened that door, it became alive. The walls breathed. The floorboards shifted like they were alive, like they were part of the Hollow Ones themselves. Every room, every corner, every shadow was infused with them. I didn't know where to start, but I knew one thing: the basement was the key. I prepared myself for the inevitable. I gathered everything I could: salt, fire, iron, anything that might work. But I was scared that it would be too late, that the moment I set foot in the basement, I would lose myself to them, too. But I didn't have a choice. The door to the basement was unlocked again, just like before. This time, I didn't hesitate. I went straight down. As my feet hit the bottom, I felt the ground tremble beneath me. The walls pulsed with a low hum, like something ancient was waking. I set up the salt lines. I recited everything I could remember from the rituals I'd read. I focused on the memories I still had, the memories they hadn't taken yet, and tried to anchor myself. Tried to hold on to the one thing that might save me, my own humanity. But the Hollow Ones were faster. They don't need your fear, they need your forgetting. And as I stood there, trying to keep the salt from spilling, trying to keep myself from slipping into that dark place where my grandmother had gone. I felt something stir beneath me. The floor cracked. And I saw them. Not as shadows, but as forms, figures, ghosts of memories. My grandmother, older than I'd ever seen her, smiling with empty eyes. Elias Thorne, standing in the corner of the basement, his mouth moving, but no sound coming out. The land remembered. But I couldn't let it happen. I burned the salt. I forced myself to remember everything. I remembered the people who had disappeared, the children in Paris, the bodies left behind, the screaming in the asylum. I held on to the faces, the voices, even the smells, all the things they wanted to take. The hollow ones howled. I screamed, too, but I didn't stop. And for a moment, I thought I'd done it. The house groaned, the walls shook, and the darkness receded. For one brief moment, I felt free, as if the ritual had been broken. But I was wrong. They were never meant to die, they only wait. I woke up in the parlor. The smell of earth and rot still hung in the air, but the house was quiet now, the pulse of the hollow ones gone. At least, I thought it was. I tried to leave. I grabbed my things, ran to the door. But when I stepped outside, I saw it. A new house, across the street, a tall building with boarded-up windows. The front yard was overgrown, the grass swaying as though something was waiting inside. It was the same. It was always the same. Here we go. Let's bring it full circle with one final twist. The final twist, it was never the house. I thought it was the house. I thought it was the land. I thought it was the basement, the ritual, the dirt beneath my fingernails, but the truth is so much worse. The house, the basement, the tunnel, they were never the true source of the hollow ones. They were the bait. They needed us to think the house was the problem, the thing to destroy, to burn. They needed us to think we were fighting for the right reason, but that was part of the ritual too, a distraction, a method to make sure we never figured out the real horror. The hollow ones don't feed on land, they feed on us. Our memories, our fears, our regrets, they consume who we are, hollow us out, and turn us into the vessels they need. The house? That was just the trap, the foundation to anchor them. But the real power, the thing that keeps them coming back, is what they take from us. And I've been feeding them all along. That's when it hit me. I've never been free, I never escaped. I've been remembering the wrong things. When I burned the salt, when I tried to sever the connection, I wasn't just saving myself, I was giving them what they needed. Each time I fought back, each time I resisted, I gave them a little more, because that's what they wanted me to realize it too late. They wanted me to feel the loss of everything, to truly know what it's like to forget. It's not the house that's haunted, it's me, it's all of us. I've been hollowed out. My memories? No longer mine. Every time I try to remember something, a piece of it slips away. I've lost entire years, I've forgotten faces, and now, as I sit here, staring at the walls that no longer feel like walls, I realize the truth. I'm not going to escape. The hollow ones are in my mind, inside me, shaping who I am, erasing what's left of me piece by piece. The house, the basement, that's all a facade. The real ritual happens in the dark places of your soul. They are the silence between thoughts, the empty space between breaths. And now, they've made me their vessel. They've taken me, they've taken all of us. And there's nothing left to remember. Epilogue, the next one. Across town, the apartment complex on Elm Street stands silent, abandoned. The windows are boarded up, the door, locked, but the land is not empty. A young woman moves in. She's alone. She's heard the stories, rumors, really, but she doesn't believe them. There's nothing unusual about the house. After all, nothing wrong with the land. Yet, as she stands by the window, staring out at the empty street, she can hear it. A whisper. The house is calling. And that's it. The hollow ones are still out there, always hungry, always waiting. If you want to continue, I can show how this cycle spreads across the globe, or leave it open for another story. What do you think? All right, let's go bigger, spreading the cycle of the hollow ones across the globe. The quiet terror that no one is safe from. The hollow ones, global reach. It started with one house, one forgotten basement, one ritual of memory and loss. But the Hollow Ones were never bound to just one place, one family, one country. They're always watching, always waiting. They spread across the world like a disease, infecting towns, cities, countries, until one day, no corner of the earth is untouched, and we won't even know it's happening until it's too late. The pattern repeats itself, a house, a ritual, a slow, creeping disappearance. But this time, the Hollow Ones have gotten smarter, more patient. They don't just appear in the dark corners of the world anymore. They've learned how to move among us. In Tokyo, a young couple buys an old house near the outskirts of the city. It's quiet, too quiet, the kind of place no one really lives in anymore. The walls are paper thin, the air stale, but there's something familiar about it, something they can't place. When they move in, the neighbors warn them. Strange things happen there. People leave, but they don't come back the same. But the couple brushes it off. They don't believe in ghosts. They don't believe in curses. But that doesn't stop them from noticing the changes. At first, it's small, a forgotten name, a misplaced key, and then, one day, the husband wakes up and doesn't remember where he left his wife's scarf. He can't recall the last time he smiled. He can't remember why he's there. And it happens to her too. Slowly, piece by piece, they start to forget themselves. Their laughter fades. Their conversations dull. They sit across from each other at dinner and no longer feel connected. There's an empty space between them, growing wider by the day. Across the ocean in a small village in Italy, an old monastery sits abandoned. The monks long gone, but the land remains. A historian arrives, hoping to document the old prayers and texts the monks left behind. But what he finds isn't history. It's something else. The ritual, buried in the old stone walls. The Hollow Ones don't just live in places. They live in beliefs, too. They infect the land through the stories we tell, the memories we hold dear. And in that monastery, the historian stumbles upon a journal, older than any living person, and something ancient stirs beneath the floorboards. He reads the journal, piece by piece, and with each word, a new voice grows in his mind, a voice that feels like his own, but it isn't. He starts to forget his own name, his own past. His memories begin slipping away like water through his fingers, and soon, he can't tell if he's the historian anymore, or just a vessel for the Hollow Ones. From there, the stories grow more fragmented. A couple in New York, a family in Argentina, a student in London, all of them touched by the Hollow Ones, all of them disappearing. At first, it's just their memories, their identities, but soon, the Hollow Ones get greedy. They want more. They begin to take the people, piece by piece, like a puzzle. They hollow them out and move them to new places, new homes. The cycle spreads faster. And yet, no one sees it. No one realizes what's happening. Until one day, when the last of the Hollow Ones finally makes its way to the center of the world. It reaches the heart of the city, the busiest street, the most crowded place, and something shifts. For just a moment, the world goes quiet. The air holds still, and then, as if on cue, every person on the street looks up at the same time. They smile. But they're not really smiling. They've already forgotten. Epilogue: The Hollow Ones win. A new city rises. The streets are packed, the buildings towering, the crowds bustling. But the people who walk these streets are different now. Their eyes are blank, their faces smooth, like clay. No one remembers their names. No one remembers the past. The Hollow Ones are no longer hidden. They've won. The cycle is now complete. They're everywhere, unseen, but always there, hollowing us out, piece by piece, until there's nothing left. Every place, every face, every memory. And as the world moves forward, no one will know what was lost. The end, for now. Would you like a different twist, something unexpected, perhaps? Or should we dive into one last character's struggle against the Hollow Ones? Let me know what you think.